What's up, everyone? This is Reel's Movie Podcast, and I am Z. 21 movies, 11 years, $18 billion, and it all comes down to this. What am I talking about? I am talking about Avengers Endgame, and that's what I will be reviewing today. Just to let you know, there will be spoilers because it's very hard not to talk about this without spoilers. So, seriously, do not listen to this review if you have not seen it yet because you will be spoiled and it will ruin the movie for you. I don't want to do that to you, so go watch the movie and then come back. So, Avengers Endgame took so long to get this, especially after the events of Infinity War. You know, that whole year, that wait, it was like you always wonder what they're gonna do, and there's many theories on what they're gonna do. Many of them was time travel, and yes, they do time travel, and it's very interesting on how they do that. But overall, the wait it is very satisfying that it has happened. The movie at the end, it's satisfying. You do leave with a smile on your face, tear in your eye. It's all that rolled up in one. Now let me go in with the time travel. They figure out a way with the quantum realm that Ant-Man got stuck in at the end of Ant-Man and Wasp that they can time travel because 5 years in real time felt like 5 hours to him in the quantum realm. So when he returned, he literally had no idea what was going on. He had no idea about Thanos, nothing. So he comes up with a plan for the quantum realm and time travel, and they need Tony Stark to help. Stark, who's living his own life, he's completely different Stark than what we know. He has a cabin near a lake. He has a daughter named Morgan. Married the Pepper. He's happy with his life. He's not very happy with Captain America because he says he's kind of more angry, upset with him because he wasn't there fighting Thanos on Titan. Like he obviously had no idea what was going on Earth and all that stuff. So he was kind of angry with Captain America. But Tony finally gives in and they figure out the best way to time travel and they want to grab all the stones. Now, the reason why I say this is 3 weeks after the end of Infinity War, they find out where Thanos is. He's on a planet. He used the stones again, and he's the only one on this planet. He's just doing his thing. He's a lot older. He's weak. The first shot we see of him, his half of his face is just charred, and his arm is charred. So obviously something happened. The Avengers minus Stark attack him, and he tells them he destroyed all the stones, and it nearly killed him. That's why he's so weak. And out of nowhere, Thor cuts his head off. Yes, Thor decapitates Thanos and it literally kills him inside. Like emotionally, it kills him because I think he puts a lot of blame on himself for what happens for not killing Thanos in Infinity War. So that's where the time travel comes back. We go 5 years into the future, and this is where Ant-Man came about. They figure out where all the time stones are. They figure out where all the Infinity Stones are. Excuse me. They figure out that 3 of the stones were in New York City at the same time. That was in the original Avengers in the New York battle. So Hulk, Tony, Captain America, and Ant-Man go to New York. Natasha and Clint, they go to get the Soul Stone. War Machine and Nebula go get the stone at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. And Thor and Rocket go to Thor 2, the Dark World, and get the Ether Stone, the Reality Stone, from out of Jane, who Natalie Portman returns for a brief, quick cameo. So that's it. So they're all spread out trying to get the stones, and we'll start off with New York with the 3 stones. Hulk goes to get the Time Stone, and we meet the Ancient One again from Doctor Strange, and he convinces her to give her the stone, and he promises to put the stones back because it's going to change the past and what happens in the future. So it's a little reverse butterfly effect. Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Captain America, they go to Stark Tower at the time, and this is right when Loki gets captured, and they figure out a plan to get the Scepter and the Tesseract. The Scepter had the Mind Stone in it. So right after Loki gets arrested, the cleanup crew comes in, and this is where Rumlow, who is the Crossbones and also Hydra agents, they take the scepter, and this is when they were going to go give it to Baron, where they did the experiment on Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So Captain America plays a little trick on him, saying "Hail Hydra," and they give him the scepter, so he has the scepter. Tony has a little more difficult with the Tesseract. After he sends Ant-Man to like pull something in his reactor, it gives him like a cardiac arrest. He has the suitcase with the Tesseract, and all of a sudden Hulk comes down mad because he had to take the stairs because of the capacity in the elevator. Hits start, Tesseract flies out, Loki grabs it, he vanishes. So there you go. So they figure out a plan to get the Tesseract and more of the time travel component that Hank made, and they go back to 1970s New Jersey. Tony gets a Tesseract. He sees his dad. They had a little friendly conversation with each other because Tony knows who he is, but his dad doesn't. Steve sees Peggy Carter, and very like sad moment that he wants to say something but he can't. So they time travel back to the present day, and they got the 3 stones. So War Machine and Nebula have a tougher time getting their stone, like a very tougher time. Nebula tells War Machine that they're not the only ones looking for the stone because this is right at the beginning of Guardians. But she tells him that Thanos, Quill, the real Nebula, and Gamora are all looking for the stones, and then we go back to that current times, and we see that Nebula is fighting, and Gamora comes, saves her, and then Thanos, and then Nebula starts freaking out, and then the projector that we saw in Infinity War pops out of her eye, and we see her talking to Rhodey. So the two Nebulas, wires, so to speak, cross, and current times Nebula is going. All them memories are going to the past Nebula. So after they get the stone, after they knock Quill out and they get the stone, they go back. Gamora can't because she realizes Thanos is watching and he knows what's going on. They kidnap her and they do the little switch. So bad Nebula is replacing the good Nebula. Thor and Rocket, they are trying. Trying to get a plan to get the ether from Jane. It's still like absorbed her. If you saw in Thor: Dark World, that ether is a part of her, and they're going to extract it from her. And this is funny that Thor, in the 5 years after he decapitated Thanos, he is fat. Yes, he is fat. This is the complete different Thor than you expect. He has long hair. He doesn't care. He just wants to drink beer. And that's all he wants to do. So he's having an anxiety attack because this is the day his mom died. And his mom, who, was raised by witches, and they have a conversation, and he's trying to tell her about what she's gonna die, and she won't hear it. She's like, fix your path or your future. Mine's already set. So before they leave, Rocket extracts the stone out of Jane, and Thor gets his hammer back, and they go back. So we have all the stones except one. Natasha and Clint go get the Soul Stone. So they meet Red Skull, and he tells them the price to pay for the Soul Stone. And then they realize one of them has to die. They fight. They fight each other to sacrifice themselves because they both want to do it. So Natasha actually does it. She sacrifices herself, her life, to give Clint the Soul Stone. Very emotionally, and this does kill off Black Widow. Did not expect this at all because there's actually been talks. I think it's actually been approved that there's a Black Widow movie going to be coming out, but she's dead now, so I don't know how that's going to happen. I didn't expect her to die out of all the characters, but she knew what she was doing as the character, and I think story wise, I think her character it fit her character. So now they have all the stones. Tony makes a gauntlet, and they're trying to determine who does it. Thor wants to do it. In a funny moment, Thor tells Tony, you know what's inside of me. You know, talking about the thunder. War Machine says cheese whiz, and Thor nods his head and goes and thunder. So it was funny them talking how fat Thor is and how to shape. It's really funny, them saying that stuff. But Hulk agrees to do it because he's got the radiation and the gamma inside him. He can take it. He can take the punishment. So he does that. He has the stone, and he snaps. He does the snap, and everything looks fine. Everything looks back normal. Clint's phone rings, and it's his wife. So he's real happy. But all of this, the bad Nebula, she brings Thanos' ship to through the times to the time portal, and here we are. Thanos is now in the current time. Old past Thanos is in the current time. It gets a little confusing, but he's in the current time, and he blows up the Avengers Tower, and then Hulk has to save War Machine and Rocket from drowning because the whole place just collapsed, into the ground. Hawkeye, or Hulk loses the gauntlet. Hawkeye grabs and is being chased by monsters. He fights them off. And then Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man have a really good, fun fight scene. It's like a little 50-50, but I think Thanos, he's still powerful, and Thor's obviously out of shape. Tony's still a little weak. Captain America's obviously the only, fit one out of three. But they have a really good fight scene, and you honestly think Captain America is going to get killed. It's coming. You honestly think it's like it is pushing for it that's gonna happen. But all of a sudden you hear through the radio, you hear Sam Falcon say, "Cap, are you there?" Then all of a sudden, Doctor Strange, all his little time loop things open up. Everyone comes out, and it is so beautiful how this works. You just see everyone return. You know, like if you see in the theater's gonna go legit at it. They're gonna balls to wall excited. You're gonna be cheering. It's just a very feel good moment. It's like the biggest feel good you have for this movie because you have a lot of desperation and loss, and they don't know what's going to happen with the Avengers throughout this. Everything's like their hope. It's just a lot of hopefulness. But this just brings it up. Everyone returns. Black Panther has his army, and it's like all out battle because Thanos brings his army and he brings his uh, Dark Order with him as well, and his army's huge. Big old fight scene, what you expect in the third act of this movie. Huge fight scene. Everyone gets their moments. Thanos is getting beat, and he tells his ship just to fight, just shoot everyone. He doesn't care if it's his own troops or anyone. Just fire the rockets. So all of a sudden, his ship just starts blowing it down. You see people dying. Just the wizards and Black Panther's army. They're getting killed, and all of a sudden they shoot it to the skies. And here comes Captain Marvel. Just destroys the fuck out of the ship. Beautiful done, beautiful scene. And surprisingly, Captain Marvel does not play a big role in the movie. like you would expect. You would thought it would, but she doesn't. Which I would say she's fairly newest character. I say that's a right call on that. So he lost his ship, and then there's a little hot potato with the gauntlet. You go from um, Hawkeye, you go to Spider Man, and then a very cool moment is when Captain Marvel takes it, and they're gonna go to Ant Man's van, who has the time machine because the original time machine was destroyed because they want to get it out there and put it back to where it go, put the stones back where they go. You have all the female characters. This is such like this. I think this part of the movie, like the theater, just roared with excitement because you have, Mantis. You have Pepper Potts, who's in the Iron Man suit. Valkyrie, she returns. Wasp. Everyone, they lead the charge, and it's just awesome done. They lead the charge to get it. After Captain Marvel and Thanos has a fight, he takes the Power Stone out of the glove and knocks her out. And then it's pretty much he has the gauntlet. He has all the stones. He's about to do the snap. And they realize it. All the heroes realize what's going to happen. And Iron Man looks at Doctor Strange, and Strange holds up the one. So remember, in Infinity War, he says out of the 14 million plus uh, outcomes he saw, he only saw one. So Iron Man realizes what he has to do. He fights Thanos, and all of a sudden Thanos does the snap, and nothing happens. He looks at his gauntlet, and all the stones are gone. Tony has all the stones, and he snaps his fingers, and all the bad guys vanish. Thanos sits there and realizes that he's about to be vanished, and to a huge ovation from the crowd, he vanishes. Now, obviously, the snap does a toll on Tony, and he dies. And I think he goes out the hero, and it's the right call. He was where it started in the MCU. This is where it started, and he pretty much finishes it. I think that was the right call. He died with Pepper, and even he has a really sad scene with Peter. Like, I'm like seriously just thinking of this. Like, we saw what happened. Iron Man holding Peter when he vanishes, and then Peter does the same for Tony. It's like obviously Peter Parker didn't have a father figure growing up besides Uncle Ben, but we never saw that in the MCU. So Tony was his father figure, and it's just a very sad scene. And then you know after some time, everything looks like it's back to normal. Like everyone's back. They have a funeral for Tony with everyone there. The Guardians there. Nick Fury's there. Ant-Man, Wasp, Hank, and his wife. Even the kid from Iron Man 3 that he helped in the movie showed up with. I had to look that up because I just see some random kid standing there. I'm like, who is this kid? I had to look it up. I'm like, oh, it's the kid from Iron Man 3. But all the Avengers are there. They're all mourning him. Nick Fury shows up, and they pretty much go their separate. Everyone goes up their separate ways. Thor gives Valkyrie the new Asgard, which is a fishing town. So she's the new ruler of that town. Thor says he's going to go on his own path, and he goes with the Guardians. So we see him teaming up with the Guardians, and when I actually am very excited for that. If that's how the Guardians 3 is going to be, I'm excited for it. You have funny moments with Thor and Star Lord, and then Captain America is going to go back in time and replace the Stones with Hulk, and you see Bucky and Falcon watching. Captain America never returns. It was supposed to be like a 5-second wait from what Hulk said, and he never returns. They said he missed his jump. So they see someone sitting on a park bench, and they go over, and it's an old Steve Rogers. Falcon talks to him, and Steve he returns the stones back, but he goes back to see Peggy, and then he marries Peggy, and then he spends his life with Peggy, and he hands down the Captain America shield to Falcon in a very touching moment, which I honestly thought it would have been Bucky that would have got it, because Bucky does do Captain America in the comics, but so is Falcon. But I thought it would have been Bucky because it's Bucky, just Captain America, they're best friends. But he gave it actually to Falcon, which I thought was cool. And you end the movie with Captain America dancing with Peggy, and it's a nice, and she's crying. So you have all this. It's 3 hour. It is a 3 hour movie, but the beauty part is you don't feel it. You do not feel the 3 hours because it seriously goes by like a snap, so to speak. No pun intended. It's seriously like it honestly feels like an hour sitting there waiting because there's so much happening. You got the 3 acts. The first act, it's very slow, but it's supposed to be slow because they don't know what to do. Like they are pretty much at a loss. I think the first act was very dampering on on the effects of that on the characters because we don't see them like this. We don't see our funny action heroes like this. They are all down and just down on themselves. But it all leads up to the third act. The second act, you do have some really good moments, a lot of throwbacks to the original movies. It's really good. And then the third act is just beautifully done. The fight scene is absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, just, talking about it, I'm going to nitpick, but the especially in the third act, you don't see a lot of the characters do any do a lot. I mean, you do have Spider-Man does stuff, Doctor Strange does stuff. Quill has a little moments, but that's pretty much it. You really don't see Groot a lot. You see him in maybe two parts. Scarlet Witch she's like just goes at Thanos, and it is awesome seeing that. Black Panther, he had his little bit of moment with the running, being chased with the gauntlet or being chased by the gauntlet. It's just that there's so much happening at once that you see something happening and be like, you try to focus on what's going on over there. But I think that's just nitpicking. And surprisingly, there is humor in this. Besides the Thor being fat, there's not much humor, which I think called for it. They didn't need it. They didn't need the humor for this. They needed to rectify what happened. Like one of the funniest things, first times Tony sees Rocket. Rocket says something, and Tony says, "I for this whole time I thought you were a Build-A-Bear." Very funny, but this is one of those things that you're gonna nitpick at it. You're gonna say like maybe this scene didn't be needed, or that scene didn't be needed. That scene didn't need to have this. This is gonna be a nitpicking movie, but everything happened for a reason. I think all the scenes were needed. That it stretched out the story for 3 hours. That was, very well done. Love the pacing of the movie. Absolutely love the pacing. I will keep saying that, but everything led to the final act. Everything led to Tony's death. Captain America going, doing what he wanted to do. He wanted just to be with Peggy. Everything, fixed itself, and we had the happy, satisfied ending that we wanted. So my grade for Avengers Endgame is an A plus. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reel's Movie Podcast. Remember, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment below, tell me your thoughts on Endgame. Hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you later.